back like we never left. Y'all already know what it is. It's Double Move Sports. I'm Stef Albiero. I'm here with the fantasy phenom, my brother, my guy, Alex Lott. Say what's up to the people.
Steph, wow, this is amazing. We have now finished our home league draft, and yet we're still going to mock draft for the people. So this one is just for you guys watching. I'm super excited. I think most drafts are probably going to be happening here in the next week or two, so hopefully we can keep bringing value. We were just in the war room in our league, and it's a very, very competitive 14-team league, so a lot of crazy stuff went down. There were a lot of reaches, a lot of great value picks late. So hopefully me and Steph can bring some good heat and some hot takes here on this mock draft and end up with some squads.
Hell yeah, and we'll be breaking down all the picks we just made in that draft, looking at real-life picks, our own draft strategies, breaking it all down on the show. If you like what we do here on these mocks, go check out our channel. We drop film breakdowns on players, give you guys fantasy analytics mixed in with some tape. We have a full podcast, so we go into these hot takes.
We're doing it all right now.
Man, I'm excited.
It's a blast.
Season's almost here, man. It's right around the corner. Let's get into this.
Let's do it. So we're going to do a full PPR mock draft here. Quarterback, 2 running back, 2 receiver, tight end, flex, defense, and 6 bench spots. We're going to be randomized here when I click this button, so let's see how this goes. I think last time I had the 2 pick and Steph had the 11, and it looks like, wow, Steph gets blessed here with the 101, and I am with the 107. So this is going to be great. I know there's been a lot of questions on our YouTube channel so far about I have the 101 pick. Yeah, it's lock in McCaffrey, but then where do I go after that? And then I'm at the 107, right in the middle. That's where you don't necessarily have to reach for your guys. You can kind of play the draft a little bit and see who falls to you. So this should be great, both drafting from some different spots with different strategies. So we'll probably end up with some pretty different teams.
And we'll see if we end up going with a real-life team or maybe doing some theory crafting, messing around a little bit to see, hey, if I take this guy here, what happens? I think there's a ton of value in doing that. But I'm at the 101. No analysis needs to be done here.
You should take Russell Wilson.
It's run CMC all day, every day. I'm not questioning it. Number one in any format. Dynasty, super flex, 14-team, friggin' 32 teams. I don't care. It's CMC at the 101. After I took him, it's pretty chalk. Saquon, Zeke, Kamara, Henry, Michael Thomas, and then Alex, to you at the 107. Is it CEH time?
This is tough. I'm literally looking here at Dalvin, CEH, or Devontae Adams. I've been staying away from Dalvin Cook this year, and at the 107, he's actually a pretty good value because essentially if you draft Dalvin Cook, you just got to spend your 8th or 9th round pick on Alexander Madison. And I'm going to do it here. I'm going to go ahead and take Dalvin and say back in the 9th round, I'm going to take Alexander Madison. Dalvin Cook is such an electric player, and if he stayed healthy for all 16 games, he's one of those guys that would be, I think, in that tier with CMC and Saquon. If the injury history wasn't there, I think he'd be up in that top 3. So I'm going to take Dalvin here. I really want to see what happens with my team when I do start out with a stud running back like that, and we'll see who ends up falling to me here in the 2nd round to really determine whether I'm going to go RB or try to sneak in a wide receiver early.
And after you took Cook, it was Kenyon Drake, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Devontae Adams, Miles Sanders at the 112, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the 201.
CEH at the 201, that's a steal.
That's a steal mixed in with the Sanders CEH combo. I love that. I love the pass
Sounds like your
dynasty
team.
It does. It's that is a dynasty because we're gonna win back-to-back championships with those RBs at the core of that team. But I mean, Sanders and CEH, you get guys that are gonna get a lot of pass catching volume. You're going to get goal line volume, and they're just on good offenses that are going to have a lot of yardage and touches to go around. So love that little stack there. And then after CEH, it was Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyreek Hill, and Kenny Galladay. So starting off the 2nd round with essentially a mini receiver run here. Are you going to keep that receiver run going at the 206, or are you going to stack up running backs?
I am not. I'm going to stack running backs here. And Team 11 did a little 0 RB action going Devontae Adams, Julio Jones. If you're going to go 0 RB, that's the way to do it right there. 2 absolute
you've
studs.
done
We'll
that.
see who they end up.
You've done that.
I have. I did it in our DMS community league. So we'll see how that pans out for me with Adams and Jones. But here, I'm going to take another running back. Josh Jacobs is still on the board. I think his volume is going to be great this year. I know there's the concern about the passing game work. But even if he doesn't get the passing game work and it's the same as he was last year, he was consistently in RB1 consideration. He should have been in the top 2 in the league in rushing yards if he wouldn't have got hurt. He actually would have pushed for that rushing title with Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb if he would have played all 16. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in Josh Jacobs. I think the Raiders' offense is going to be a little bit better this year. And then if he does see a pass-catching bump, that's all upside for Josh Jacobs. And if he did get the receiving work, he would be potentially a top 5 running back. So we'll see if he can take that step this year. He was able to do it in college. John Gruden wants to use him. We'll see if he does use him and does what he says he's going to do. But I'm going to go ahead and lock in Josh Jacobs here to give me Dalvin Cook and Josh Jacobs as a really good RB start to this draft.
That's got to feel great. And after
feels fantastic.
After Jacobs, it was Fournette. Wow, in the middle of the second.
Gross.
I actually love it. I was hoping Fournette would fall to me at the 2-12.
In the third.
Yeah, I guess that is a bit of a reach when you have, you're looking at Chubb there, and let's see who else is on the board at running back. I mean, he took Fournette over Aaron Jones. I don't know if I would do that.
Don't do that.
But I was hoping that Fournette would fall to me back here at the 2-12. So 2 picks for me after I took McCaffrey. At wide receiver, got some interesting names. Travis Kelce and Kittle are still there. Lamar Jackson is there.
After Fournette, Chubb, A-Rob, and Chris Godwin, and Patrick Mahomes off the board. So if you're listening and you're not watching and you don't see the draft board here and you're just like screaming, why don't you take Chris Godwin? It's because he's gone.
There you go. And I think I'm going to go ahead and lock in Aaron Jones just to go running back
That's a value.
here. I like the value on him. Somebody reached on Fournette. I would have, in most drafts, I think you do see Jones go at that mid-2 spot instead of Fournette. I would have been fine with either one. Looks like I get the better one here in Jones. So I'm going to draft him first. And then let's consider some options at this point. Todd Gurley is still there. Man, just with the recent headlines, I'm having a hard time pulling the trigger on him. When I got DJ Moore, Mike Evans looking at me, Adam Thielen, even Amari Cooper, but I think I am going to go with Travis Kelce and not worry about the tight end position.
I was hoping he'd somehow sneak to me.
No, there's no way. You got to get Kelce. I'm getting Kelce at the 301. I think even that is a value. You rarely see him fall that far. So to grab Kelce technically in the third, even though it is the 301, does feel good. And now I don't have to worry about taking, a million upside shots at tight end at the end of my draft. I can just coast and grab some quarterback and receiver value next time around and later on. So let's go ahead and pull the trigger on Kelce here. Pretty easy so far for me. Not too many hot takes or reaches up to this point. And after Kelce, it was Kittle, then Lamar Jackson. I did consider him, but just with all the depth at QB and how easy it is to stream the quarterback position, especially in a 1 quarterback league, I took Lamar Jackson in our DMS Invitational Listener League this year. And it's just, man, I've been kicking myself for it for a while now, knowing that I could grab a Matt Stafford in the 12th round. You know what I mean? So that's been one that I've been
quarterbacks keep falling down draft boards for sure.
Yeah, it's tough. And I made a rule with myself at the beginning of the season. I said if Lamar falls past the 301, you got to take him. And I grabbed him at the 302 in that league. So I'm not going to debate you too hard there. I mean, we saw Mahomes go in this one at the 211, Lamar at the 303. I would have switched those two personally if I was putting this together. But then after Lamar, it was Adam Thielen, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper. I'm sure you're mad that a Cooper just got sniped from you. Now it's you at the 307 with Dalvin Cook and Josh Jacobs sitting there on your roster. Where are you going with this one? Is this receiver time, or are there still a few running backs you like?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think DJ Moore is the receiver name that stands out to me. DJ Moore, or I'll take the upside on Odell Beckham Jr. And then at the running back spot, Todd Gurley. We've talked about it a ton, starting out RB. Todd Gurley does have risk associated, but with Dalvin Cook and Josh Jacobs, if I go Todd Gurley here and he pans out, that's a pretty freaking good roster with 3 stud running backs. If he doesn't pan out, I can still make up for it later because I still have 2 studs. I do like Lev Bell at the running back position as well. I think he's more of a high floor play here, though, so I'm not necessarily going to go with him as an RB3. I love taking him as an RB2 in leagues. If you get an upside one of the stud running back ones and you can get Lev Bell as a strong RB2 with a stud receiver as well, I love that roster construction. But I think, let's see here, I'm going to go ahead and take DJ Moore. He's Michael Thomas light. We've talked about it. Loves running slant routes, a lot of high percentage targets. Teddy Bridgewater's an upgrade at the quarterback position. He should really enjoy DJ Moore underneath, and we know DJ Moore's got speed to burn as well. So I'm going to lock him in. There should be plenty of pass volume in Carolina, and Moore should hopefully take another step forward this year. And if he does, he's going to be right in that wide receiver 1 range.
Love him as a safe wide receiver 1 with tremendous upside there. Not a bad pick at all. And after Moore, it was A.J. Brown, David Johnson, Jonathan Taylor, Odell Beckham, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Conner. So it looks like this Team 12 here is stacking up on their Steelers. It's a risky shot to take. I don't know how I feel about the Steelers because they didn't do anything to address their backup quarterback spot. And then it was Zach Ertz, DeAndre Swift. I was hoping he would somehow fall to me. He's going early and earlier in drafts, right up there with Jonathan Taylor. And
he's
then
climbing. The 403 is early for DeAndre Swift.
I
in
love
front
it.
of Todd Gurley, in front of Lev Bell in this draft. That's crazy.
I don't hate that at all, especially this guy who has Mixon, Jonathan Taylor, and Swift. I love all that upside at the RB spot. He's going to have to grab some floor plays later, but honestly, man, I would probably take DeAndre Swift in the back of the third.
Wow.
Rising fast.
That's a hot take.
Rising fast, man.
That's a hot take.
Dude, carry-on's done.
After Swift, it was Calvin Ridley and Terry McLaurin. So I'm back on the clock. And this is a tough choice because I feel like there's a ton of values here with my fourth pick. I have 2 stud running backs, a safe wide receiver 1, and I'm looking at Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, both still available at the running back position at receiver, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, DJ Chark, and Mark Andrews is still there at tight end in the middle of the fourth. So, man, this is challenging because I almost took Gurley last round. I also like Le'Veon Bell a lot as an RB3 and a really high floor play. He should not finish outside of the top 15, 16 running backs in full PPR if he plays all 16. I think I'm going to roll the dice here. I do believe that a wide receiver I like is going to get back to me. I still see Parker, Metcalf, Lockett, Hilton on the board. They're fine as wide receiver 2s. In the middle of the fourth round, I'm going to take the risk on Todd Gurley. In Atlanta, they love passing to the running back. Devontae Freeman got somewhere from 4 to 5 targets last season per game. I believe it was 4.5. So Todd Gurley, if he is healthy, even if he's not healthy and they use him a lot, he should have value this season. I don't know how long he's going to hold up, but even if I get Todd Gurley for 8, 10 games as a top 12, top 15 running back, this is a value, and I can take the risk because I have other studs on my team. So I'm going to lock in Todd Gurley and see which one of these wide receiver 2 tier guys come back to me in the next round.
Yeah, having Gurley as your 3 there with 2 starters in Cook and Jacobs has got to feel great because let's say Gurley busters out, his knee just can't hold on, and he's sitting on the bench.
My
then
team will
you're
be fine.
Chilling at running back. And after Gurley, it was Mark Andrews. Love that pick there. Love seeing Andrews go in the middle of the fourth. That's about where I would take him as well. Robert Woods, Chris Carson, Cortland Sutton, Lev Bell, and then back to me, 2 picks here at the 412 and the 501. Current roster is Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, Travis Kelce. So I'm probably looking at a wide receiver with one of these 2 picks, maybe both, depending on what values are there. And this just became really easy for me. A guy that I've liked taking in the late third this year, Melvin Gordon, is still sitting there. I love him as a volume play, but also he does get some upside there. If by some stretch of the imagination, Drew Lock is great and the offense can really get moving with all the weapons they brought in, that's where you get the upside with Gordon. But he should be super stable. He'll be in there on third down, so be there on the goal line. I think he'll get a decent chunk of rushing work. Everyone's kind of fading him because they're like, well, Phillip Lindsay's not going to go away. I agree, but that doesn't mean Melvin Gordon's just suddenly nothing at this point. People treat split backfields like a death sentence for both players when there's still tremendous value to go around. I think Gordon is going to be the main benefactor of any running back production in the Broncos backfield. So I'm going to go with Gordon and then my guy, DJ Chark. You know I had to do it. I've gotten him in probably every single league this year. It's unreal how much I like Chark. You can go see the film breakdown on our channel. I broke down him and Gardner Minshew. I think both are tremendous values at their ADP. Yes, I like Chark over Cooper Kupp. I just like the upside combined with the safety. We're going to see the funneled volume with Chark, kind of like a Devontae Parker last year with the Dolphins, where there's plenty of garbage time on a team that's going to be in some very pass-friendly game scripts. I do like the quarterback play from Minshew. He's not going to be, Tom Brady out there, but he's still going to be able to get it done. He's still going to be able to make plays, and him and Chark just have an insane connection. I think they're going to be fantastic. I think Chark could be a wide receiver 1 this year, a low-end wide receiver 1 if everything breaks his way. So I'm going to go Chark and feel great with him as my 1, knowing that I can get another solid option here with all the depth at wide receiver this season.
Yeah, your team's coming together really nicely. And after you took Chark, several of the names I would have loved as my wide receiver 2 went off the board. Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, Devontae Parker. So I would have loved to have Kupp, Lockett, or Parker as my wide receiver 2. And after them, we did see Deshaun Watson go off the board. So I'm here at the 507. And this is a good example of why you do typically want to wait at the wide receiver position and stack stud running backs or running backs with upside like a Todd Gurley early on, because I took Cook, Jacobs, Moore, and then Gurley. And I'm sitting here in the 5th round, and DK Metcalf, T.Y. Hilton, Stephon Diggs, Jarvis Landry, Tyler Boyd, all still on the board. So plenty of wide receiver 2 tier names are sitting here. And I'm really deciding between Metcalf and Hilton with this pick. I'm a big Colts fan, and I have been really liking T.Y. Hilton at this current ADP, but I'm going to switch it up a little bit here, and I'm actually going to roll the dice, and just because this is the mock draft, go DK Metcalf. I think with DJ Moore as my wide receiver 1, he's more of a safe, steady option. DK Metcalf is a little bit more dynamic and probably is going to make a ton of big plays this season. He's not as proven. So I'm going to go with DK Metcalf. I know T.Y. Hilton has been, a stud here for years now, and he does have some injury concern as well. But I'm going to roll Metcalf out there as my wide receiver 2 and feel pretty good about it. And I still think there's going to be some names that get back to me for a wide receiver 3 that I'm going to feel good about as
Metcalf looks like the last receiver that's still on the board that could feasibly finish in the top 12. So I love that pick there. Grabbing Metcalf everywhere I can if he's sitting there in the 5th. And after you took Metcalf, it was Darren Waller at the 508. T.Y. Hilton went. Then Jarvis Landry, Devin Singletary, Dak Prescott, A.J. Green, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Evan Ingram, and David Montgomery. So it looks like those highly efficient but also high floor quarterbacks all went with Deshaun, Dak, Russell, and Kyler. So looks like if you wanted anybody from that tier of QBs, you're not going to get your hands on them. Where are you going with the 606 here? You're trying to add to that wide receiver core, knowing you got 3 running backs and 2 receivers at this point?
This is really difficult because I feel like there's a tight end. There's a couple tight ends I like, a couple receivers I like, and a couple running backs I like. And now it's just the ADP game of who I think is going to get back to me. If I look at the teams picking after me, there's 6 teams. 3 of them already have tight ends. So there's really only 3 teams that are in consideration to take a tight end. Maybe all 3 do. And I like Tyler Higbee and Hayden Hurst. I'm hoping one can get back to me. So I'm going to roll the dice and hope that both of them don't go off the board just because of how the draft board looks. And then at the running back position, I do like Kareem Hunt here. I love Ronald Jones as well. Those would be great RB4s with a ton of upside. And then at the receiver spot, I like Tyler Boyd. I like Julian Edelman as a very stable wide receiver 3. Michael Gallup as well. And this is a tough one, but I think because I believe a tight end can get back to me, and we'll see if that happens, and because I already do have 3 running backs and only 2 wide receivers, I'm going to go ahead and lock in another wide receiver. I'm actually going to take Michael Gallup here. I think all 3 of these Cowboys receivers have a ton of upside this season. I don't think CeeDee Lamb scares anyone. It scares me away from Michael Gallup. I don't think he should scare anyone away from Michael Gallup because Gallup plays on the outside. CeeDee Lamb is probably going to be bouncing in and out of the slot and outside. And last year with Randall Cobb in Dallas, they ran 3 wide receiver sets 2/3 of the time, 67% of plays. Michael Gallup actually played more snaps last season than Amari Cooper. So I think they're all going to be out on the field a ton, and they're all going to have big weeks. They're all probably going to have weeks where they disappoint, but I think all 3 of these Cowboys wide receivers could finish in the top 30. I think Amari Cooper is the highest upside of the bunch, but Michael Gallup's number 2 for me, and I think all 3 are values. I typically end up all of my drafts with one of the 3 Dallas Cowboys wide receivers. Looks like this one, Michael Gallup, fell into my lap as a wide receiver 3, so I'm going to go ahead and smash this pick.
Yeah, we're all over these Cowboys weapons. Even Jarwin, we love Zeke, love Dak. So yeah, we love the Dallas offense this season. And after you took Gallup, it was Mark Ingram, Josh Allen, Tyler Higbee's not going to make it back to you, Raheem Mostert, and then this one hurts, Tyler Boyd, taken at the 6'11". Would have loved to have him as my wide receiver 2. He's been efficient with Green on and off the field. He's just a guy who gets peppered with targets underneath. I think he's going to be a great safety valve with Joe Burrow. But unfortunately, I don't get to have that on my roster in this one. So let's see you still here at wide receiver. I got 3 running backs with McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, and Melvin Gordon. And then I got Travis Kelce and DJ Chark. So I'm looking to give Chark a buddy here in the wide receiver room. Let's see who we got. A lot of names that I don't feel comfortable with as my 2, but it looks like the way that I went on this draft, it's kind of the premium that you pay when you do take Travis Kelce. You don't get to have as much of a stack at either wide receiver or running back. But of the wide receivers that are here, I think, believe it or not, I'm going to take Julian Edelman over Hollywood Brown, just for a guy that I need as my 2. I think there's plenty of Marquise Brown type guys that I can take later on with tremendous upside, like a Darius Slayton, like a Deontay Johnson, like even a Brandon Cooks, Marvin Jones. Hopefully one of those guys gets back to me. I guess I do have 2 picks here, and that I'm thinking about it. So I could take both Edelman and Brown. I think I am going to do that. As I was talking about it, I'm kind of like figuring it out in real time. And I need wide receiver, both upside and safety, and that's actually what I can get from both.
That's a perfect combo there.
Both
I love that
Edelman
combo.
and Brown. So I'm going to do that. That actually made it really easy. Kind of feel like an idiot for kind of falling into that one as I was talking through it, but that's why we do these mocks, so we can figure it out on the fly. I'm pretty excited about this wide receiver core now. I kind of forgot I had 2 picks there, so that feels great.
Yeah, I mean, DJ Chark, Julian Edelman, Marquise Brown, you don't really have the proven stud star power there, but you have 3 guys that all complement each other really well. Chark is kind of this emerging young player who proved he can be a wide receiver 1 last season. Edelman is the vet who's going to give you the high floor. And then Hollywood, we saw flashes last year, but he hasn't pieced together a full season of it. So I actually love what you were able to do there. And after Hollywood went Stephon Diggs, Will Fuller, talking about upside, Stephon Diggs and Will Fuller. Then Matt Ryan, Brandon Cooks, another upside play there. And then Rob Gronkowski at the 706, which I hate. Guys, don't take Gronk. And don't take Gronk when Hayden Hurst is on the board. When some of these other, even I would rather wait and take Mike Gesicki or a TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant. I think the chance of Gronk being this every down player and the Gronk of old is, I just don't see it happening. I think Gronk is going to be snap count limited. I think he's going to be in the game on high value plays. So think about like third down conversions, think about red zone plays. So I think he will have value when he's on the field. He's going to outproduce his snap count, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
like a Jared Cook last
I'm just
year.
concerned about his usage. There could be games where he just doesn't get used much at all.
And we have seen, based on camp reports thus far, we have seen O.J. Howard being the guy who's on the field the most right now. I don't know if that's more of a situation where Gronk is getting eased into football shape or what's going on there. But you're right. There is a world where Gronk's not on the field that much. The thing is, though, I believe in the efficiency. And with a guy like this team here, already has Mark Andrews, so take the upside shot on Gronk. Yeah, I hate the 2 tight ends super early like that, but if you're going to stack it that way, if maybe you're just a Gronk truther and you got to get him on your team, I think that's the way to do it. Not that I would, but after Gronk, it's here to you at the 707. You got 3 running backs, 3 receivers, so really any option is available to you. Where are you going to go with this one?
I know I said I might take Hayden Hurst here if he gets back to me. I'm going to roll the dice. I think he can get back to me again. And there's a running back I just have to take. I take him everywhere I can. It's Ronald Jones. I'm a believer. I know there's been some camp reports about some trouble catching the ball, but all the running backs there have had some issues. And I think Ronald Jones is the guy. Bruce Arians has said he's the guy. Even LaShawn McCoy said Ronald Jones is the guy. He is dynamic on film. Go to our channel and watch the Ronald Jones film breakdown if you haven't.
It's great.
My jaw dropped. My jaw dropped when I watched this film because I did not realize the good plays that he had were absolutely incredible. I know he needs to be more consistent, but he has the potential if he can really focus and string a full season together, string full games together. So he's going to have the chance in a high-powered offense that should have plenty of high-value touches in the red zone where he will be the red zone back. So I'm going to take Ronald Jones. He's one of my favorite candidates to sneakily get double-digit touchdowns this season. And I'm going to hope that Hayden Hurst can fall to me here in the next round. So Ronald Jones as my RB4 feels awesome.
It's a good upside shot. I worry with all the weight that he's putting on. I think he's trying to put himself into the Jordan Howard, Carlos Hyde type of profile there. We'll see what happens.
He's getting thick.
He's trying to get thick this year. But it's Matt Stafford, Carson Wentz. Wow, so Stafford over Wentz. Very interesting.
Wow, he's jumping.
Deebo Samuel, Cam Akers, Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones. So a couple good upside wide receivers and running back went there. Would love to have Akers fall to me. And then Tariq Cohen, Jamison Crowder, James White, and Kareem Hunt. So back to you again, 806. Where are you going to go with this one?
I'm going to go ahead and smash Hayden Hurst. I don't know that he does get back to me again. And I think Hayden Hurst has a ton of upside. The Falcons came out and said he's going to be an every down tight end. So he is going to get every opportunity in that Austin Hooper role. I think he's quite frankly a better and more athletic pass catching tight end than Austin Hooper is. And when we see that Austin Hooper was the tight end 1 through over half of the season before he got hurt last year, I think there's nothing but opportunity for Hayden Hurst in Atlanta. Matt Ryan loves him. They've been practicing together all throughout the offseason. They've had a good report through camp, according to some of the beat reporters. So I'm going to lock in Hayden Hurst. It's not a ton of risk here in the what are we in the 8th round? I can take another upside shot on tight end later and hope that one of them hits. But I'm feeling really, really good about Hayden Hurst this year. I've been talking up Tyler Higbee a lot, and in a ton of my leagues, I have Higbee everywhere. But Hayden Hurst is getting really close for me because you can get him a round or two later than Tyler Higbee, and I think his upside might be very, very close. So I'm just going to go ahead and lock in Hurst, fill out the tight end position, and then we'll fill out the rest of my roster with running backs and wide receivers the rest of the way. And obviously I need a quarterback too, but we can wait on the quarterback position as usual.
After Hurst, J.K. Dobbins went, and that hurts my soul. I was hoping, fingers crossed here, that he would fall to me at the 8-12. Deontay Johnson just went. Camp reports sound a little scary about him. I don't know if he has some kind of hamstring or ankle issue going on. So keep your eyes on that with Deontay Johnson.
I've been picking up James Washington a lot with my last pick or second to last pick in drafts.
Not a bad upside shot.
I'll probably do it here unless Stef snipes me.
Not a bad upside shot. They're going to need somebody to stretch the field on that offense if Big Ben is the Big Ben that we know and love. So yeah, don't mind Washington there taking over that deep threat role. Could see a Chase Claypool breakout potentially. I know he's a guy who's a very polarizing prospect, but he's an upside prospect. We could see him break out sooner rather than later. And then John Brown and Jordan Howard went. So now 2 picks for me here at the 8-12 and the 9-01. Let's see who's on the board. So we're kind of in the dead zone at both the running back and the wide receiver position. I almost want to skip the Phillip Lindsay, Kerryon Johnson, Tevin Coleman, Marlon Mack tier and just immediately get into the handcuffs and ideally handcuffs with standalone value. We'll be talking about that on our next podcast, breaking down some of the strategies that you can take with these late round running back shots, maybe even 0 RB shots if you want to go that way. Not that I personally recommend it, but this is the point here where I am willing to grab a quarterback or a tight end if there's a name that I like. Maybe reach a little bit and grab a super upside wide receiver like a CeeDee Lamb or a Darius Slayton. That's probably what I will end up doing. But I'm going to go ahead and lock up Tom Brady first. I think the upside that Tom Brady has not only is he's probably the most proven player on this entire draft board that could ever get picked up. And everybody's been having the debate all year. Is it Godwin? Is it Evans? Is it Gronk? Is it Rojo? The one thing that we know about this Buccaneers offense is that Tom Brady is going to eat. I think with the weapons that he has, could be the best weapons group that he's ever had. He's going to be so fun to watch this year. I think he's going to be airing it out more than people expect. I'm fading all the narratives. I actually dropped a video. This was back in middle of the summer, breaking down Tom Brady's deep passes from the last season, and he gets this bad rap. I think it's just lazy narratives of people saying, oh, Tom Brady can't throw it deep. It's like, it's not that he can't throw it deep. It's just that he takes what the defense gives him. But if they give him a deep shot, he's going to take it, and he has fantastic weapons for taking those deep shots. So I love it this year. I'm taking Brady, and I'm going to ride that Tampa Bay hype train all the way to a championship.
I mean, if we're going to go down narrative street, I think the Tom Brady out to prove that it was him and not Belichick narrative might have some real validity behind it, because he goes to Tampa Bay. He's not just going to Tampa Bay to kick rocks. Like, he's going there. That he is in control of this team. He strategically went there knowing they had weapons. Gronk comes out of retirement. Bruce Arians is tailoring this offense towards Tom Brady. It's going to be Tom Brady's world, and I think Tom Brady is going to absolutely be out, with a fire lit under him with something to prove this season. So I would not be surprised at all to see Tom Brady throw the ball a ton this season and to see this offense really thrive under Bruce Arians. We know Bruce Arians can support a quarterback throwing the ball 600 plus times. Brady still threw it 600 plus times last season. People don't realize Brady only threw it like 15 times less than Jameis last year. So there's going to be plenty of volume to go around this offense. And we talk about, you're so right, Steph, is it Godwin? Is it Evans? Is it Gronk? Is it Rojo? Is it Keyshawn Vaughn? But it's like, it is Tom Brady. We know that for a fact. And if we're even having to talk about this many other options in the offense, we know Tom Brady is going to be great.
And now I get another pick. I think I can still wait a little bit. Again, I'm fully fading Kerryon Johnson this year. The fact that I have Melvin Gordon means I'm not going to grab Lindsey. I don't mind him as a guy who can be a backup that you want as a depth piece in this weird, crazy COVID year. But also a guy that even if Melvin Gordon's out there, I think there will be weeks where he has value. Obviously, in an ideal situation, you don't want to start him, but I like him as a desperation RB2, especially in deeper leagues, 14-team leagues. So I'm going to go ahead and grab an upside shot at wide receiver before I start taking those handcuff and upside running backs. And that's going to be Darius Slayton. Just give me some more firepower in that wide receiver core that I have with Chark, Edelman, and Hollywood Brown. with Darius Slayton, we could see him emerge as the one with Danny Dimes. He came in as a rookie last year. He only had really 4 massive boom games, but if those can be a little bit more sustainable, if we can see Daniel Jones take that step up that we want him to take, I know the beginning of the year schedule is kind of rough, where they have matchups against the Bears and the Steelers very early on, but in the second half, things open up for him. So I'm just going to hold on to Slayton, keep him on my bench. If I need the upside shot in my flex, why not? And hopefully he emerges. And now I have a guy who's, a broken out wide receiver on what should be a high-flying offense with, they didn't do a ton to improve their defense either. So should be a very pass-heavy offense as well. So I love that for Slayton, especially in garbage time. So I'm going to pull the trigger on him and then wait to see which of these running backs fall to me. And after I took Slayton, it was Sterling Shepard, Henry Ruggs. Ooh, Henry Ruggs. Should have eyed him a little bit longer. Marlon Mack, CeeDee Lamb, Phillip Lindsay. And now back to you at the 907. Where are you going to go with this one?
Yeah, so I've already got 4 running backs. I've got 3 wide receivers, and I have my tight end. It looks like I'm going to pick the 3rd Giants wide receiver here in round 9. It seems like these Giants receivers are all going within a round of ADP this year. Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate. And I have, earlier in the offseason, I was leaning Slayton just because I figured he has more upside than the other 2, which is true. But I've been really rising on Golden Tate this offseason. I think Golden Tate is being forgotten about in this Giants offense. People don't realize Golden Tate averaged more points per game last year. He played 11 games. He missed, the first 4 weeks of the season, and then he missed another game in there somewhere. But he averaged more points per game last year than Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Odell, Deebo Samuel, T.Y. Hilton. So this guy, I don't know why he's not being talked about. He shouldn't be talked about in the same tier because he doesn't have the upside, but he's being totally forgotten about. Here we are in the 9th round, middle of the 9th round, and Golden Tate is on the board as my wide receiver 4. I've been scooping up Golden Tate as my wide receiver 4 in as many leagues as I can, because you can play him in your flex and stack other positions or take an upside shot on a running back, take an earlier tight end, do things you wouldn't be able to do otherwise, because Golden Tate's always going to be sitting there for you to plug in your flex if you need it and get you 10 to 15 points a week. Golden Tate last year only 0.1 points behind Tyler Boyd or Cortland Sutton in terms of PPR points per game. He's on this Giants offense that I know had, weapons in and out of the offense. Slayton missed a couple games. Sterling Shepard missed a couple games. Ingram and Barkley are obviously out. Now they come in at full strength. But my gut tells me that Golden Tate's role in this offense as a slot receiver, as the veteran, is very, very safe. And I think Daniel Jones could and should rely on Golden Tate a ton in this offense as the slot receiver, as a very nice security blanket, who could, be putting up 6 catches for 60 yards on a week-to-week basis. And if he gets the touchdown that week, there's your upside. So I love snagging Golden Tate as a very safe floor play as my wide receiver 4 that I can roll out any given week and know I'm going to get a solid performance that's not going to kill me.
Love it. And they paid him a ton to come in there as a veteran slot receiver. Like, you can't ask for more than that in terms of what he's going to be. He's going to be highly efficient. I think there's going to be games where he may disappear just because they have a lot of competition in the receiving weapons. And you have Saquon sucking up a lot of the underneath touches as well. But I can't debate that Tate pick at all. He was fantastic last year. I even did a film room on him last year, breaking down his plays with Daniel Jones. And he was burning some high-level cornerbacks on the outside. He can still go deep when he needs to, and he's a yak.
He has
monster.
Upside too. On a week-to-week basis, he has upside. I don't think he has the full season upside as the other guys, but like last year, listen to some of these games against New England: 6 catches, 102 yards, and a touchdown.
Big.
He had a game with 4 catches, 95 yards, and 2 touchdowns. 8 catches, 85 yards, 6 catches, 80 yards, and a lot of these games are consistently 10, 11, 9, 10, 11 targets. So Daniel Jones is going to lock in on Golden Tate early and often. He's pretty much a lock for 5-6 targets a game. The targets are going to be high-value targets as well, very high catch percentages, because the average depth of target is probably going to be a little bit lower. So I love the Golden Tate pick, and if you need a stability play at wide receiver, I've found myself waiting, and instead of going with an Edelman No offense, Steph. I think Edelman's a fine one as well. But instead of going with an Edelman or a Jamison Crowder, I'd rather wait 2 rounds later and just snag Golden Tate.
And here's the difference. Edelman is the only proven option on that offense, so that's where I'm putting Edelman over Tate. But, I mean, they're the same.
For sure.
They're cut from the same cloth in terms of guys that you can grab super late. Even Jamison Crowder, who in this draft did go around before Tate, it's like, dude, let me just wait around and get Tate. I'll take that every day of the week.
Exactly.
Well, you're on the clock again in the middle of the 10th. Is it handcuff time for Dalvin Cook? I probably shouldn't have said anything there and let you forget.
I had totally forgotten. Otherwise, I would have taken Alexander Madison last round. You just saved my butt. This is easy. I'll just take Alexander Madison and move on. Thank you, Steph. I don't know. Yeah, it totally slipped my mind, and that's the thing. I guess if this was a real draft and I was more tuned into like, oh crap, I took Dalvin Cook, I don't think I would have forgotten the Alexander Madison pick because I haven't taken Cook very often. I don't think I have him on any of my teams, and I haven't taken him in a ton of mocks either. But if you can get him at the 107, you just have to remember to lock in Alexander Madison. And I did it here in round 10. I got lucky. Probably should have done it in round 9. So Steph, shout out to you for the heads up there. I needed that.
Well, what's funny is that last time when I took Dalvin Cook, you sniped Madison from me, so yeah, I guess I'm just a good Samaritan. Well, here's the thing. I don't like Madison, really, to be honest with you. I was looking into some of the games last year. I know Madison had some of his own injury worries. Then is he really the high-value handcuff that you want there? But even in those games, during that stretch when Cook was out towards the end of the year, we saw Mike Boone coming in and getting a large share of those touches. So I don't know. Like, I'm not fully set on Madison in terms of like a Tony Pollard where he's the only other guy in that backfield who's just going to totally feast. But, you know, with the Dalvin Cook pick, you do have to hedge a little bit. It's almost making me fade Cook in favor of guys like CEH, like Miles Sanders, and Joe Mixon, just because I don't want to touch Madison either.
And to be fair, Steph, you brought up Tony Pollard. I think Tony Pollard is the highest value handcuff in the NFL in the sense that if the starter was to go down in Dallas, I think Tony Pollard immediately would have the most value. Like if you had Dalvin Cook go down, Zeke go down, I'm taking Tony Pollard 10 times out of 10 from a skill set perspective, from how they're going to use them, things like that. Where with Alexander Madison, I think he's going in the same range or even earlier than Pollard in a lot of drafts because there's a much higher probability from what we've seen from Dalvin Cook's career that he will get injured because he's gotten injured every single year. So I think Pollard in a vacuum is like probably a more talented player. His role would be bigger if he was to get the job, but Madison probably has a higher likelihood to get that starting role. And I don't even know if, like you said, I don't know if Madison would be the full workhorse in that offense. It would probably be some sort of RBBC with Madison leading the way. But I think that's a good point. But it's one of those things where if you get Cook, you just have to take Madison. And if he goes down, you might have an RB2 in Madison. He's not going to be an immediate RB1. But it's still something you have to pick up on in the 9th or 10th round. So after Madison, though, let's go ahead and move on with Mike Williams, Mecole Hardman, Niners D, Anthony Miller, and Keyshawn Vaughn. So, Steph, you're back on the clock. You haven't taken a running back since Melvin Gordon in round 4. You now have 4 wide receivers, a quarterback, and a tight end. What are you thinking about with this pick? Is it handcuff time for you? Are you going to snag up Tony Pollard?
It's interesting. You know, earlier in the offseason, I probably would have gone with Pollard here, but just like you said, like you're not getting any value out of Pollard, even though it's going to be tremendous value. I'm too worried that we're going to be 4 weeks in, Zeke is going to be playing great, and now I have a bench clogger just sitting here. And so really where I've been leaning is, and we'll talk about this on our next episode of Double Move Sports, is talking about grabbing the high-value handcuffs that also have some standalone value. And when I think about guys that fit into that description, it is names like Duke Johnson, names like Zack Moss, Boston Scott. I think even Chase Edmonds and Justin Jackson could have standalone value.
You've been snagging Chase Edmonds everywhere.
I have, man. I think he's 2 bad Drake games away from getting a large percentage of the market in that backfield, whether that's touches through the air and on the ground. In the limited sample size that we have seen of Edmonds on the field, he's been great. So with the way that offense manufactures yardage and touches for their running backs, I love having another piece there if I can't grab Drake in the late first, early second. And at this point, though, I'm not going to go Edmonds yet. I am just going to go with Zack Moss. I think there's actually a world, this might be a hot take to some, I think there's a world where Zack Moss is actually ahead of Devin Singletary on the depth chart by the end of the season. He's much more of a bruiser back, but just like Singletary, he can get it done out of the backfield. I think he's going to be the go-to guy on the goal line. opposed to Singletary. He does have some pounds on him, and you think of Singletary as get him in space, and he's going to make electric plays on the outside, especially in like the screen game. We saw him get a lot of design touches there through the air. But if I want a bruiser on the ground who's going to be the first one to get goal line touches, I'm going to go with Zack Moss. And Josh Allen had 9 rushing touchdowns last year. Everyone keeps talking about that, and it's for good reason because that's more than likely going to come down. We kind of see that with all the Bills' offseason moves is like they're trying to get Josh Allen to rush less. Like they're bringing in pass-catching weapons. They're bringing in running back weapons. So I feel like they're going to move away from that, and I think Zack Moss is going to be a beneficiary there with some touchdown volume. So I'm going to take Moss first. And now it's my next pick. At this point, it's either, grab a Gesicki and something I'm really interested in, Alex. Let's talk about this real quick. Has Noah Fant's ADP just been falling off a cliff over the last 2 weeks? Did something happen to Fant?
It's interesting. It's very interesting. I don't know what it is. I guess it's some of this draft hype. I guess as more people who are more casual players are getting into it, some of the bigger names are climbing. I don't know what it is. I see Gronk going earlier and earlier now. I see some of the rookie hype at receiver and running back, shooting their ADPs up. And Fant, it felt like you couldn't get him anywhere with some of the hype earlier this offseason. And now he's typically available in the last round or two. So the outlook hasn't changed much for Noah Fant. KJ Hamler actually is out right now with a hamstring issue as a rookie. I don't know if that's going to really give him a hard time getting up to speed in this offense. I did see some camp videos of Hamler when he was healthy, and he looked nice. But, it's a Drew Lock discussion here. The talent is there for Noah Fant. 20th overall pick in the draft a year ago. We know rookie tight ends historically don't produce. He proved with his athleticism last year that he can make huge plays. With me, I'm happy to take an upside shot on Fant. I think he's a value at where he's going right now. He could come out week 1 and be one of the key components in this offense. You think about guys the last 2 years that broke out. George Kittle a couple years ago. Last year we saw Darren Waller, even Mark Andrews. These are all athletic tight ends that can get yards after the catch. So Fant fits that mold. I think he's a perfect candidate for an upside play this season. And I'll consistently snag him late in drafts. I have Hurst here. If Fant's there, to me this round, if you end up fading him with this pick, I might be tempted to take him here in the 11th round.
Well, you're going to get your shot because I'm going to go with Mike Gesicki here at tight end. We got how many picks left? We got 1, 2, 3, 4 picks left. One of those is going to be a defense. So really only 3 picks here. I'll probably grab another upside tight end shot, maybe a Hawkinson, maybe even somebody a little bit later like a Blake Jarwin or a Jonnu Smith. But I like Mike Gesicki a lot. He had the 3rd most deep targets among tight ends last season. Had 5 touchdowns last year, which was right there and where Kelce and Kittle were. And with Gesicki, he only played 69.5% of snaps last year. I think that's going to go up. That was 21st in terms of snaps at the tight end position. But he commanded the 7th most targets among tight ends and finished number 12 in receptions and receiving yards. So, he finishes the tight end 13 last year. I think the only way for him to go is up, whether it is Fitzmagic, whether it is Tua. Regardless, I think Gesicki will just be a nice, safe option that I can just plug in. He kind of reminds me of like Gary Barnidge back in the day on the Browns, of just like a nice, stable guy. I mean, Gesicki's not going to burn you with his legs, with his speed or anything like that, but he'll be a contested catch guy. He'll be a guy that will be a safety valve on the outside and in the end zone.
He's athletic. He's explosive. That's the thing. His straight line speed isn't quite where like a Noah Fant is, but Gesicki's an explosive guy. I remember his combine. Some of his measurables were absolutely insane, and he was putting up highlight reel level plays time and time again in college at Penn State. So Gesicki's got it in him as an explosive player. But you're right, the yards after catch ability has to go in if he's going to have that like Kittle level breakout. But I think he could still break out into like a top 7 or 8 option at the position because, quite frankly, the Dolphins have to throw to somebody. And with all the opt-outs, Gesicki's probably going to see a lot more targets than he would have otherwise.
Yeah, but he's a guy that I like to pair with now, like a Jonnu Smith, who just went. So that's actually pretty crazy. He went a little bit earlier, went over Fant, over Hawkinson. So now you'll have your pick of the litter when it comes to the late round tight ends. But who are you going with here at the 11:07?
I'm actually going to go ahead and lock in my quarterback. We're in the 11th round. Drew Brees is on the board. This is a no-brainer for me. He's so efficient. He's always a threat to throw for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. He brings in Emmanuel Sanders, which I don't think Emmanuel Sanders is a great fantasy option this year, but it's only going to help Drew Brees as, finally getting a wide receiver too. It's not Traquan Smith or Ted Ginn anymore. Michael Thomas, Jared Cook, Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray, tons of weapons in this offense. We know they're going to be probably a top 5 offense this year. I'm just going to lock in Drew Brees as my quarterback. This is why you wait. I get a Hall of Famer who has had no signs of slowing down. And that's just a smash pick for me here in the 11th round. Unbelievable value, and I think an upside tight end is going to get back to me.
Let's play a quick trivia game. You talked about Emmanuel Sanders there, and we just talked about Sanders on our last episode. If Michael Thomas goes down, who do you want there? Is it Traquan Smith or is it Emmanuel Sanders?
Whoa. It's Sanders for sure. I mean, Traquan, there's no reason to believe Traquan could hold a wide receiver 1 spot anywhere. He's been fine, as a wide receiver 3. but Sanders would be a little bit interesting if Thomas did go down. I think Sanders would be right up there in top 20 wide receiver consideration. But, Thomas has never had injury concerns in his career. I don't see him going down. And it would just take a lot for that to happen. I think that's probably the only real path to fantasy relevancy for Emmanuel Sanders this year is an injury to Michael Thomas, and there's no way for us to bank on that happening.
I'm not totally out on Traquan Smith quite yet. I know last year was kind of disappointing. We had Ted Ginn coming in for, kind of his final stand here in the league. I don't know. I'm still interested in Traquan Smith. I think we might see him pop up in the fantasy relevancy again at some point. But who are you taking here at the 12:06? Is it upside tight end time?
I really think they're still going to get back to me. I mean, I look at the teams after me.
Hawkinson and Fant are there.
Yeah, there's 2. Hawkinson and Fant are both there. Every team has a tight end. You and Team 6 here have 2 tight ends. So I really think they're going to get back to me. I'm going to take my last wide receiver deep shot here. I've been scooping him up. I mentioned it earlier. James Washington for Pittsburgh. He's got a rapport with Ben Roethlisberger. Deontay Johnson was a rookie last year, and Big Ben got hurt early, so they don't really have much of a chemistry on the field in real games. James Washington was a rookie 2 seasons ago with Big Ben. Last year, he didn't get a lot of credit, but he still led the Pittsburgh Steelers in receiving yards, had a really high yards per catch number, and he can get it done down the field. So people are assuming Deontay Johnson is going to take that wide receiver 2 role. I think James Washington has a pretty decent shot to be the second most valuable wide receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers behind Juju Smith-Schuster. And here he is going 5 rounds after Deontay Johnson, sometimes undrafted. So I'm going to take the shot on James Washington. Deontay has been out of practice as well. So I'm just going to take the shot, and I'm going to monitor the snaps week 1. If he's out there on the field, if he's getting targets, I'll hang on to him. If not, I'll just cut him and pick up somebody else. But I've been loving scooping up James Washington extremely late this year.
Oh, this was brutal.
So there goes your guy. I know that sound. After Washington goes Steven Sims, Nyheim Hines, AP, and there goes your pick, Chase Edmonds at the 12:10, and then Justin Jackson at the 12:11.
Yeah, I would have loved either Edmonds or Jackson. I kind of forgot, low-key, don't make too much fun of me for this. I kind of forgot that I grabbed Travis Kelce so early. And I probably wouldn't have grabbed Gesicki there. Probably would have grabbed a Damian Harris or Boston Scott.
You probably would have grabbed Chase Edmonds.
Maybe. Yeah, he's an upside shot that I like a lot this season. I've talked about Edmonds a lot, so I'm not going to go into it again. But let's see what other running backs are here. Not a ton of high-value handcuffs that I like. I mean, Joshua Kelly would be one that I would consider, but he's got to fight through Justin Jackson before he becomes relevant. He has seen a lot of good reports out of camp, but just probably not a guy that I want to draft. He's more of a keep an eye on the waivers, pick him up later. I do like Brandon Ayuk here as kind of the last man standing in the 49ers receiver room, and with Deebo Samuel coming off the foot injury, and this, I don't know, George Kittle.
He could get a hot start.
There's word that Kittle was supposed to receive surgery on his shoulder this offseason. He did not get it. I do have some concerns there. I know I'm projecting some craziness here, but if for whatever reason Ayuk is the last man standing, I do think the 49ers are going to try to pass a little bit more this year. I don't know if they can maintain that run scheme that they were able to have going for so long last season. I do believe in Ayuk's talent. He's a yak guy. And what we've seen with Shanahan, what he wants to do is just get his playmakers in space and let them go make plays. We saw that with Debo. We see that with Raheem Mostert. We see that with Kittle. So I think Ayuk fits that same mold of the receivers that they want in San Fran. And if there's an upside shot to take, I think it is Ayuk out of all the receiver rookies. If it's not Jalen Reagor for me, then it's Ayuk more than likely. So I'm going to grab him first. Do have another pick here. Already have 2 tight ends with Kelce and Gesicki. Wow. I mean, DeAndre Washington's an interesting one as the handcuff and backup to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I could actually see week 1, 2, and 3 Washington getting more carries than Clyde Edwards-Helaire truthers probably want him to, just with the way that he's going to be eased in a shortened offseason as a rookie. But it's so hard when we have so many good upside shots sitting there at wide receivers. So I think I am going to fade running back. I ended up, being able to grab a few stable options like, Melvin Gordon as my third option, Zack Moss as my fourth. So at this point, just based on the players who are here, I'm taking the best available to go out and help me win a league. And it's either Deshaun Watson or Paris Campbell. I think playing the ADP game, Paris Campbell can fall back to me.
Deshaun Watson.
Not Deshaun Watson, Deshaun Jackson, my bet on that
one.
one.
What a value in the 13th round.
I wish. Well, look, it's D-Jax. It's the upside play. He looked great in that, whatever it was, 2 games last season before he went down. If he's the guy in Philly, then, I just got a league winner here. As my second to last pick, so that feels good. I'll take the upside shot on D-Jax, see if there's anything left. If he can't figure it out, if he can't stay healthy, if he's not getting targeted, maybe Raygor and Sanders take up a bunch of that volume, and Jackson's not getting it done, then I'll just drop him, move on, pick up somebody else.
After D-Jax went Ravens D, A.J. Dillon, Noah Fant, Bills D, and Anthony McFarland. So I was just planning on Fant falling to me here. I was just going to pack it in. Take Noah Fant, snag my defense, and we were going to be on our way. Noah Fant goes off the board, so now I have to look back at who's available and actually make a pick here.
Hawkinson, man.
That I need to think about. Hawkinson's there. Jarwin is there. Tons of tight end deep shots. I'm trying to see at receiver, running back, make sure there's no one I'm missing. I'm just going to take the deep shot on Hawkinson. I would prefer Fant over Hawkinson, but
really?
In a pass-happy offense in Detroit, first-round draft capital, top 10 draft capital, I'm just going to snag Hawkinson, see what happens this year with Matt Stafford healthy again, with Hawkinson himself healthy again in Detroit. And after him, we did see Dallas Goedert, Blake Jarwin go at the tight end spot. Patriots D, LaShawn McCoy and Hunter Renfrow close out the 13th round. And in the last round, we see some defenses going. Cam Newton. I'm just going to snag a defense here. Let's see who's even available. I like grabbing the Eagles D because they have the Washington team week 1. They're available. I also like the Colts D. They have Jacksonville week 1, and I'm a Colts fan. And I think they upgraded an already good defense this offseason. They picked up DeForest Buckner and Xavier Rhodes. Didn't really lose anybody. So I'm going to go with the homer pick here. Just snag the Colts D to wrap up my roster.
Tell me that the Eagles fall. Oh, they got
Vikings,
sniped.
Carlos Hyde, Big Ben, the Eagles D, Sammy Watkins, and here you are on the clock with nothing but the Chargers D fell to you. That's a strong defense week in and week out, regardless of matchup. They get a rookie in Joe Burrow week 1, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, I actually like that pick a lot. It was either between the Chargers or the Titans. I think the case you just made there, and Bosa, big money bags Bosa out here, signing monster deals with the Chargers. I love it. I feel like there's a big sack opportunity against Burrow in week 1. And I like the secondary that the Chargers have to get as well with Derwin James, Desmond King, a couple other guys. So I'm going to take Chargers defense here and call it a wrap on this mock. Let's look back at our teams, see what we could have done differently, if anything. I think there were a few things here and there I probably would have changed. I kind of forgot I had Kelce when I grabbed Gesicki, so probably would have gone with another upside running back like a Chase Edmonds, even a Justin Jackson. I think both of those guys, even Duke Johnson, could all have standalone value and handcuff volume if the number 1 on the depth chart goes down. I think there's a high probability that an older guy like a David Johnson does go down, and then it's all Duke Johnson's show there in Houston. But Alex, how you feeling about your roster?
I like the roster. I don't love it. I think this was interesting for me because I picked a lot of names that I haven't picked a ton, on my teams or in mock drafts so far this offseason. Dalvin Cook's here. As a stud RB1, it doesn't feel like it because I just feel like with Dalvin Cook, there's just like this rain cloud over my head with him missing time. But, when he's on the field, he's a top 5 guy. Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs feels great. DJ Moore, DK Metcalf at wide receiver doesn't get me that excited. I think if I could go back, I might actually trade where I picked Todd Gurley at the 406 and take Robert Woods. I think Robert Woods is going to be a super safe, steady wide receiver too. And if I had DJ Moore and Robert Woods at the wide receiver spot, I think I'd feel a lot better And I could have gotten some more running back value later on. So if I could go back, I probably would have exchanged Todd Gurley for Robert Woods. And maybe, you know, instead of DK or Michael Gallup, gone with another running back with one of those two picks. But all in all, I like the roster. I think it's got potential and it can compete. You know, and if you hit on, you know, I love Hayden Hurst. I like Ronald Jones a lot. And even TJ Hawkinson and James Washington with some deep shots. I think if a couple of those guys hit, this roster could be really good. But I'd give myself a B+ on this one. Definitely not my favorite roster that I've ended up with, but it's definitely serviceable. Steph, how about yourself? I mean, you got CMC, you got the top running back, you got the top tight end, so you got to be feeling pretty good.
I feel good. I think there were some things I would have done differently. The thing is, every time I take a tight end or a quarterback early, I always feel less excited about my roster at the end. My wide receiver core here, I think, does have something to still be desired. I have DJ Chark, Julian Edelman, Hollywood Brown, Darius Slayton, Brandon Ayuk, and Deshaun Jackson. So, I mean, if for whatever reason, maybe Chark's not the guy, you know, or something happens to him, I'm going to be hurting at wide receiver because essentially all I have is Edelman and a bunch of upside guys. Hopefully, Hollywood Brown gets a big target bump this season, but that's not a guarantee at all with how often the Ravens run. So there's probably a few things I would have done differently, but I feel really good at running back, which is probably priority number one. And then I got some loaded options in Travis Kelce. I love Tom Brady this year, especially where I got him. You know, and some upside shots at wide receiver. Who knows? Maybe Slayton or Ayuk hits, and then I'm not even worried at all about the receiver core. So all in all, we're so close to football season. COVID tests are coming back negative, and even when they are positive, they're false positives. So we got to feel good about that up to this point.
Even when they're positive, they're negative. Let's go.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Shout out to the lab that did those tests for the Bears and the Jets.
Come on, guys. But seriously, it's encouraging to see that the NFL has been holding things together for the most part through camp. I know it's going to be an interesting season. It's been a crazy year. I just think all of us are ready for some football. And, you know, obviously health, safety, security, all those things are number one. But if we could get some football, I think it would just be a huge sigh of relief for all of us if we could get through a whole football season. That's what we all need. It's what we all want. We're getting so close. It's so freaking exciting, and we'll bring a couple more mock drafts here before the season starts, and then as the season's going on, we're going to bring content each and every week, doing starts of the week, deep shots of the week, flyers you can plug into your lineup, and all sorts of other fantasy content, film rooms,
prop
just
bets,
about anything you can think
games
of.
to watch.
Prop bets. Everything. We love taking requests as well. If you hit us up in the comments, we're answering a ton of questions. We're taking suggestions. We're talking about players that you guys bring up. So drop it in the comments. You know, if you've got any questions about certain players, polarizing guys in drafts, or even their outlook for the season, we're happy to get into those on the podcast. And as always, like the video, subscribe if you enjoyed it. That always helps us a ton. We're really making a push right now, and we appreciate each and every single person that has subscribed. It's been crazy, and we're super thankful.
We'll see you next time, guys. Peace.
Peace out. May the force be with you.
Let's go.